Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. Today we're going to have another one of my favorite things for our recipe, and that is dream cake with fluffy pudding frosting. Oh, if you've never heard of this, you don't know what you're missing. This cake comes from a product that was developed in the 1950s, which is called Dream Whip. Do you know what Dream Whip is? It's a powdered... I don't even know what Dream Whip is. I read the ingredients, and I still don't know what Dream Whip is.
Is it like home Cool Whip?
Yeah. It's basically Dream Whip comes in a little box. It's a shelf-stable item. It comes with 2 little packets in it of a white powdery substance that you mix with milk and a little vanilla, and you whip it up and make your own fresh whipped cream. Dream Whip is very low in calories. Like if you made Dream Whip and used, say, skim milk,
then it's Nightmare Whip.
Well, it would be very, very low calories. But it's, as it is, if you made it with 2% milk, it's like, I think it's like 16 calories in a serving, which is like 2 tablespoons of whipped cream, on your pie, which I don't know who uses that as a serving. But anyway, that's what it is. We talked about this before when we've talked about Jell-O, but the 50s was convenience time. We need to make things convenient for the housewife. So this is one of those convenience products that flooded the market in the 50s. This was released by General Foods Corporation in 1957, and it's a powdered whipped cream product, and it fits right in with Jell-O. This made me laugh the most. This fits right in with Jell-O and instant pudding and all of those things. It's just, it goes with them. Because I think that's what they actually intended it. A lot of the pictures of this are a pudding pie with Dream Whip on the top or Jell-O with Dream Whip on it. So, it's intended. And there are a zillion recipes using Dream Whip. And actually, when I was thinking about doing this recipe, I went out and bought some Dream Whip, and the recipe's still on the box. So the recipe for the dream cake, that's what we're doing, and the fluffy frosting, that's on there also, and the delicious Dream Whip pudding pie, which is a pie that's made out of mixing Dream Whip with pudding, and then you just make regular Dream Whip and put it on top. So it's all Dream Whippy, very Dream Whippy. So that's Dream Whip. It actually is a handy pantry staple, I would say. Handy to have because it's got a reasonably long shelf life. Check the date if you buy some. It's pretty inexpensive, and it's very low calorie. So, it fits into the American diet right now, actually. So here's the great thing about the dream cake, though. The dream cake, all these products, for example, Campbell's soup, Jell-O, Jell-O pudding, Dream Whip, whatever, they all came with recipes because they obviously want you to use this. And you don't know what to do with it, right? What am I going to do with that? So they have to give you these recipes. The company, like General Foods, thought, oh, this will be great for busy housewives because they could still make dessert, even if they're super busy, because it only takes like 4 minutes to whip up a pack of Dream Whip. And all of the recipes, it always says that beat for 4 minutes, which makes me laugh. So it's always 4 minutes. I don't know what it is about 4 minutes.
You have no more time and no less time.
I only have about 4 minutes.
I have exactly 4 minutes, and I refuse to do anything that takes less time than that.
Don't waste my time. So this topping they had all kinds of tips for using Dream Whip. And one of them, now this is also funny, to use it as a topping on the favorite cake of that era, the angel food cake, which is also largely air.
I mean, Dream Whip, angel food cake. It just goes together.
I know.
Thematically.
Let me get you a vanilla-flavored airy cake and put vanilla-flavored airy whipped cream on it. Perfect. Low-calorie dessert. Nothing says low-calorie dessert like angel food cake with Dream Whip on it. It was always marketed like that. It was marketed to use with molds. Molds were very popular then also, making that Jell-O mold. So you could mix your Dream Whip and your Jell-O together and make a pastel colored Jell-O mold, I guess. So
we've all seen pastel colored Jell-O molds at potlucks. Potlucks, cookouts, picnics. There's always
or Jell-O
a pastel green Jell-O mold. pastel orange Jell-O, maybe with some mini marshmallows
there you
in
go.
there.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it. So this, I don't know if this recipe's always been on the box, but I swear it almost has to have been. This is a thing that my mom used to make in the 70s all the time. And we just found out that we don't think that she made it actually for us. We think that she made it for somebody else. So we must have seen it and maybe rarely tasted it. I don't know.
You have memories of seeing it, but not of what it tastes like.
Well, I made it. I actually made a cake up and took her some. And she goes, "Oh, I used to make this for so-and-so." And I'm like, "Oh, I thought you made it for us." So, surprise, skunked again. But anyway, so what my mom had this signature combo. Now, I did find out that my mom didn't actually make the dream cake. She only made the fluffy pudding frosting. So she made her own chocolate cake, and then she would make pistachio fluffy pudding frosting and put that in the middle of the cake layers, and then frost the whole thing with chocolate pudding. And it's a good combination. It seems weird, but it's actually a weirdly good combination.
Well, how would you know? You never had it.
I just made it. I just made it, and doggone it, it was good. So I guess I remember seeing it as a child, but not actually eating it as a child. But now I have gotten to eat it, and it was oddly good. So the combinations are endless. Well, really, not exactly endless, but there are several flavors of instant pudding. So you could do a different filling in the middle and have the outside a different, like banana in the middle and the outside chocolate, or vanilla and chocolate, or whatever wacky pudding flavor you want to combine. But it's actually a good cake. Now, the neat thing is the dream cake part of it. What the Dream Whip does, the envelope of Dream Whip, is a substitute for the oil in the cake mix. So that's good, because usually a cake mix usually calls for 1/3 to 1/2 of a cup of oil in it. Oil has a lot of calories in it. An entire packet of Dream Whip has like 160 calories in it. That would be like 1.5 tablespoons of oil to that packet of Dream Whip, and you're using 1/2 of a cup. So that's saving you a lot of calories. So those of you that are health conscious Weight Watchers who want to eat cake, I'm sorry, this actually cracked me up when I was reading about this. It's a lighter version. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm with you. I'm with you there.
I mean, some people need to make excuses to eat cake.
Yeah.
I just lie to myself. I don't do the science. I just lie to myself.
There you go. But this actually makes the cake is really good. The cake is very good. The texture of the cake is very light, but it's not dry at all. You would think it would be dry, but it is not dry at all. The frosting is actually really good. It's almost like a texture of like mousse. Like if you were making a mousse, it's that whipped up. So it's a very good cake. And I was thinking this would be a nice, this is like, this is your Valentine's surprise for your Valentine. Hey, I made you this fancy cake, and they don't need to know you made it with Dream Whip, right? You don't have to tell everybody. Just make the cake and impress them and be like, oh yeah, I just threw this together. The icing is so fast to make, and it comes out good. And here's in my book, this is the biggest bonus of this whole thing. So you make your cake and you make your frosting, and I made 2 things of frosting. It's usually like if you wanted to put all the same frosting, you put a little bit in the middle and then you do the cake, right? But if you have to make 2 bowls of frosting, then you have some leftover of each bowl that you can eat. And I say bonus, because it's not super sweet. It's just like eating pudding, really fluffy pudding. So that was a major bonus for me on this recipe, that I could like eat the couple of tablespoons of extra frosting that was left over. So I did, in fact, enjoy that part. So on to our dream cake recipe. Now, we'll, of course, have this on the podcast and everything, but as I said, it's on the box of Dream Whip. So you can go out, you can buy your little box of Dream Whip and get your puddings and make your cake up. I used in my cake a devil's food cake. You can honestly use any brand and any kind of cake mix. I did not use Jell-O brand pudding. I used Royal brand pudding, which worked just fine.
It makes you feel extra fancy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It gave me that.
With your Dream Whip. and the royal pudding. If you buy Jello brand pudding mix, then it's Dream Whip. If you buy Royal brand pudding mix, then it's Dream Whip.
Yes, it changes the whole pronunciation.
You just have to add a bunch of H's to the beginning. Anyway, moving on.
It changes everything. So here's the recipe. Like I said, this would be a nice one to do with kids too, because it's actually pretty easy and it goes pretty quick. So here you go. You need 2 9-inch round cake pans, and those will be greased and floured. You need 1 box of a 2-layer cake mix in any flavor. Remember, plan your flavors with your pudding mix, though. So you got to be thinking, okay? And there's also, I should just mention this here, is there not a crazy variety of cake mix flavors out anymore?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was at the grocery store just like looking, kind of getting, I'm like, holy cow, there's everything now. So you could really have fun with it. You know, you can make a strawberry cake with dark chocolate pudding on it. Oh, that would be good. Okay, I better get back to the recipe. So 1 box of a 2-layer cake mix of any flavor, 1 envelope of Dream Whip, 4 large eggs beaten. This will be the most expensive part of your cake, and 1 cup of cold water. Okay, so you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Grease and flour 2 9-inch cake pans, and I also line the bottoms with a circle of parchment paper first. So what I do is I trace around the bottom of the pan, cut a circle out, then I grease the pan, then I press the parchment paper into the pan, then I grease the top of the parchment paper, and then I flour the whole mess. Which, when I say mess, when I made this cake, oh God, I put what I was trying to do was be a little conservative with my flour. So I put flour in one pan and tapped it all around, and then I held it over the other cake pan, thinking, I'll turn the cake pan and kind of tap it and turn it to coat it. And I tapped the cake pan and the flour just flew out all over the place because I was holding it sideways. So I said, well, that didn't work, did it? So then when I did the second cake pan, I said, I'll hold this over my flour container while I do the edges of it. And then I will tap it back into the flour container. And I tapped it and it just blew all over me. So 2 major fails on the flouring.
Did you have the ceiling fan on while you were doing this?
I did not.
Oh, well then I'm sorry, there's no excuse.
I don't know it was like the flour was possessed in some way. It just leapt out at me. So once you get your pans ready, open up your cake mix and 1 pack of Dream Whip and pour those into a large bowl together. And then get a whisk and just blend those together until they're really well blended while they're dry. Now you have your 4 eggs in a smaller bowl. You want to beat your eggs first and get your water ready, and then add your eggs and water to your dry ingredients and beat on low until everything's like well blended and damp. And then turn it on high for 4 minutes. Remember that 4 minutes. Once you get that mixed up at 4 minutes, you're going to divide it equally into the 2 pans. And what I did, I've been doing this lately for when I do layer cakes. I have a little food scale, and I actually weighed the pans to make sure there was the same amount in each pan instead of eyeballing, which usually results in one cake being a third smaller than the other. So it worked really well. You're going to bake those for 30 minutes or until a toothpick inserted into the cake comes out clean. Cool those cakes on racks for 15 minutes in the pan. And then what I do is I put a small rack on top of the cake pan and flip it out and take the cake out of the pan. Then very carefully peel that parchment paper off, and you can turn it back over onto the cooling rack to cool. And I always cool one of my rounds upside down so that it's flat, That way the 2 flat sides are together when you put your filling in the middle. I'm sure this is all over TikTok about how to put a cake together because everything else is all over TikTok. But anyway, cool one of them upside down so you have 2 flat sides. Then you want to let them cool completely, which is going to take surprisingly longer than you think, like an hour. And I was like pacing around like, come on, I want to put this thing together. What you want to do is wait till your cakes are cool before you make your fluffy frosting, because this stuff gets very set up. I don't know a better way to word that. When you make it, it whips up very thick. And when it sits, it gets thicker, just like normal instant pudding, if you've ever made instant pudding. So you'll want to, like make it when you're ready to use it. So now for the fluffy frosting. If you're going to put a different flavor, or if you want a lot of filling in the middle, make 2 batches of this. I didn't double it because I was nervous about the science of it, if it would actually work if you doubled it, because it doesn't seem to say that anywhere that I could find about Dream Whip. And some stuff is weird, And also in Dream Whip, they say that you can use 2% milk, 1% milk, or skim milk. I used whole milk, which may have made it set up more firmly, because that's usually true with pudding. The higher the fat content of your milk, the faster it sets up and the more dense it sets up. So I'm guessing that pudding reacts to fat. So
this has been Science Corner on In the Kitchen with Mary Mac.
So for the fluffy frosting, you need 1.5 cups of cold milk, 1 envelope of Dream Whip, and 1 4-ounce box of instant pudding. And then what you do is you get a nice sized bowl. This is how I do it. I put the Dream Whip in and the pudding in, and then again, I whisk those 2 dry ingredients together. Then I pour the milk in, and you take your beaters again and run them on low until everything's well blended, and then turn them up and beat for, guess how long?
12 minutes.
No, 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Remember, you can make 2 different flavors of this, so you get to sample 2 different things at the end now. So that's it. That's all there is to making it. And then you just put your cake together. So pick a nice plate that you like. Put your bottom layer on with the flat side up. Put your fluffy frosting in the middle as, for your center layer. Very carefully set your top layer on. You can actually, when you do this part, you can take your cake and set it in the refrigerator so that the frosting gets cold and stiffens up. And then bring it out and put your second flavor of pudding on it. And just frost it like a regular cake. And there you go. You should store this in the refrigerator because of the pudding, because of the milk in the pudding. However, it's still good even when it's cold. And voila, there you go. There is your dream cake with fluffy pudding frosting. And remember, you can use skim milk, 1%, 2%. So like I said, if you're watching your fat, watching your calories, other than the eggs in this, there's nothing else in this. This cake is made of nothing.
And you could probably use egg substitute if you don't eat eggs.
I'll bet you could. So there you go. There's your dream cake. You'll feel just like we did in the 70s when our moms made this cake for somebody else and then took it over to their house while we watched. You'll feel just the same. This was actually fun. It was fun to make it and eat it and everything. And I was laughing because this is so funny. Like when you tell people what you made and they're like, ugh. And then they like it. So everybody that I gave the cake to try it, I said, hey, I made this dream cake, blah, blah, blah. Everybody gave it to was like, oh man, that's really good. And as they were expecting it to not be good at all. So
I think that happens a lot with recipes from the 60s and 70s.
I think you're right.
You look at, or someone tells you just the concept of it and you're like, oh no. Sometimes, occasionally you have it and you're like, oh, that's actually really good. And it tricks you for the next time when it's horrible.
There you go.
So this is one of the good recipes.
Yeah, and you can make this as a 9x13. If you do this as a 9x13, you get a very thick layer of the fluffy frosting across the top, and that is great. You only need 1 batch of fluffy frosting for a 9x13. This is super good, and you should definitely try it and make it for your Valentine, but don't tell them what it is so they can be all impressed. And I'll tell you something too. If you're like me and you do not like, I am not an icing person. I like a very small amount of icing or whipped cream. I am just not an icing person. And this cake is for us because the icing, it's not sweet because it's like pudding. It's creamy, you get the creaminess of it and it has a very nice flavor, but it is not overwhelmingly sugary. So it's actually very good. So I hope that you try this recipe out. I really would like to hear back from people that are like, I never heard of this. I never even heard of Dream Whip. Golly, get out there and buy that Dream Whip. Also, I should mention that Dream Whip, you get 2 packets in a box. So you'll need 2 boxes if you're going to do an alternate filling inside the cake. So you might, this is going to cause, here's what's going to happen, because this has happened to me already. You do this, you buy the 2 boxes of Dream Whip and you make the cake, but then you have this 1 envelope left. So now you have to go buy another box of Dream Whip and make another cake because you don't want that Dream Whip to go to waste, that 1 envelope. So now I am in this, I don't know, what do you call that sort of thing? It's like a dilemma. It's a paradox. It's the dream cake paradox where you,
I mean, seeing as it's Dream Whip and you're caught in an endless loop, this is the movie Inception, but for desserts.
It's the Inception cake. That's good. I like that. The Inception cake. It makes it sound so much more exciting. So there you go. Make yourself an Inception cake and share it with the one you love. Happy Valentine's Day.
And make sure to check us out online on social media at Mary Mac Bakehouse and on our website, marymacbakehouse.com. And if you make a Dream Whip cake, make sure to tag us, and you can use the hashtag DreamCake so that we can share cakes that everyone's made.
Yeah, make sure you tag us because I want to hear everybody's different flavor combinations that they use. I think that'll be really neat to see what people do. Thanks a lot for listening if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.